Alrighty, let's go.
Let's do this. So, sorry guys for uploading the episode kind of late. We usually try to upload it 12 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays, but we're currently uprooting our lives to another state. So, yeah, it's been
It's been a fun week.
fun few weeks. Moving, unpacking, driving, and all that stuff. So we're currently coming to you from Illinois, or Illinois, however people say it. And yeah, so, but hopefully from here on out, we're going to be pretty consistent. So
Yeah, you guys should see how we're set up today.
yeah.
I'm in like this little, I guess the perfect way. If you've ever seen Men in Black, where Will Smith is doing the those tests to become an agent, and they're sitting in those silver egg like chairs. I'm sitting in a kid version of that, and like my back doesn't fit inside of it. So
Yeah, our cousins Peggy and Tim, who we talked about in the podcast, have graciously let us stay and try to figure out our lives because of the current housing situation.
yeah.
And I mean, sorry, the housing market is just like crazy. So yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah.
That's off topic. So
Different day.
we are going to continue from part 1, Hurricane Part 1. I'm going to have to warn you guys. I know myself, I'm probably going to be jumping back and forth. I mean, we do typically have an outline set up for each episode. But there's just so many things that when we talk about these times that, you know, we end up remembering something and it's like not in our outlines. But like, it's so important that we want to include it in the podcast. So yeah, just be ready for that. And again, we want to reiterate to remind you guys, as these episodes get deeper and deeper, you know, because today we're going to be talking about my dad finding out. It's going to be more intense. You know, for those who listened to the last episode who thought it was, you know, pretty intense for how my mom handled it, you know, it's going to get pretty more intense, but I just want to reiterate with you guys, like, that is definitely not how it is now. Thank God. So, you know, always remember that when you're listening to these episodes. This was then. This was back then. Now it's 100% different and complete 180. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get this started. You know, I love it when people like comment on our podcast and like or text us and tell us like, oh yeah, when this was happening, I told this person this one thing. And one of Rita's cousins, Riham, who is like one of our very good friends, family, essentially. Anybody in Rita's family that I met is like my family now. So Riham actually texted me and was telling me how she was like loving the last podcast. And she said, oh, and by the way, when Rita first told me about you and Ryan, I was like, Rita, you fucked this girl's life up. Her family's going to hate her forever, and then it's going to be all your fault, and then they're going to hate you too. And she's like, I'm so happy that isn't the case. For the record, my mom, I don't know when I told her it was Rita who introduced us, but it definitely was in the time where after she met Ryan and things were like going more uphill than downhill. After, you know, the whole fiasco and all that stuff of like telling them. And she definitely like still till this day will like tell Rita, like, you know, like joke with her and say, you did this, you know. So it's like a joke now, which is funny. But yeah, I love it when you guys text me and tell me like, you know, like your different perspectives of like different times in our relationship, because, you know, it's something that has never been said before, and it's been really nice, you know, looking back.
Yeah, I feel like
at a relationship.
I don't know if this was with you. I think this was with you. There was, I think somebody's friend was dating outside their culture and asked us for advice or if it's worth it or something like that. And I think we both said no.
I don't remember this at all.
There was somebody that we knew through a friend. Maybe it was one of Rita's friends. I don't remember. I really don't. But I think she was Arabic, but I think she was Muslim.
Arabic is a language.
Middle Eastern, bro.
There you go, bro.
But I think she was Muslim, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm dating." It was either a black guy or just someone just not in her culture, and we both said it's not worth it because
I wish I could remember, but I don't.
yeah. So I think the factor was, we had already been through. I think we were in the middle of this storm that we were in, and I think her parents were still together. She had a big family, and we're just kind of telling her like, bro, it's. I think we knew at that point that her family being still together and still kind of not broken up or divorced or whatever, it would be a lot harder for her to get through what we were going through.
Yeah, because if you guys can remember from the last episode, like, or previous episodes, like for me, I'm definitely not a special case, but a unique case because I come from divorced parents, and like as much as my dad and my mom like tried to like co-parent and all that stuff, there's always going to be differences between me and like my family dynamic versus other people's family dynamics who are still together, and that's just in general, like divorced or not. But my parents did very, very honestly, I don't know any other divorced Chaldean parents who like were able to come back from who have like a civil relationship with each other. Like even till this day, some of my friends are like still surprised that like my dad like will come over for breakfast and things like that, and like we still have like family meals, we see each other on holidays, like my mom visits her in-laws, all that stuff, like you know what I mean. So it's like it's very a healthy like model of what co-parenting should look like after divorce. But it obviously took them a while to get there. So but anyway, that's like a different story. That's their story to tell. And for those of you who are wondering, my parents do not know about these podcasts.
Yeah, that
just yet. Just yet. The way I look at it is, I understand we're telling somewhat their story because like in their perspective, which is not, like I would love to have my family be on the podcast and like tell their side of the story, but I don't know how they're going to react, honestly. And I'm just...
They might not like it.
Well, no, like, I mean, like, how they would think if, like, if they get upset, I'd be like, well, come on. come on the podcast and, like, tell your side of the story, So, I don't know. Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Where we last left off was your mom was telling you that you had to tell your dad, who at the time was in Europe on a trip with your aunt. So I think we last left off, is it a month later after you told her and you guys were in that?
So if I told my mom, it was like literally, I remember the day. Like I told my mom a week before Mother's Day, and I told my dad like literally a month later. So I think it was like June 3rd of like 2017 or something like that. Like, and the way I told him was... So this is where, if you guys have cousins like my cousin Peggy, like you're lucky because it's just so clutch when you have like an older cousin who is not like, who didn't really grow up typical, and you know what I mean? Like just, she's so open-minded and all that stuff that she welcomes like anybody, loves you unconditionally, things like that. So my cousin knew what it was going to be like telling my dad. It was not going to be easy. Like I thought telling my mom was going to be the hardest. Like I'll be 100% honest with you guys, like, which we kind of talked about in the last episode. Like my dad, because he's like, I don't want to say more educated, but because he has like, he went to school and all that stuff, like it's kind of easier to talk to him because he had more life experience, like he was in the war, he was, like all this stuff. So I guess the point that I'm trying to say is that for most of my life, it was easier to talk to my dad than my mom. Because my mom sometimes, like, she's so, sometimes she has like black and white thinking, like it's either this or that. Like gray area doesn't exist in some cases, not all cases, but, in cases like this, like where I'm talking about like major life decisions, whether it's like college or whether it's like finances, buying a home, not buying a home, investments, things like that. Like things like that, I can talk with my dad. So, and I've talked to my dad about guys before, but it was very long ago. And obviously, talking about guys with my dad is very different than just talking about I'm in love with this black person, But I thought because I have that experience with my dad, because I have that relationship with my dad, it would be easier to tell him. And he would be like more understanding than my mom ever was, especially after her reaction. And boy, was I wrong. So, how we kind of set it up is I told my cousin, Peggy, I said, I have to tell my dad when he comes back from Europe. And I don't know how I told her, because she lives in Chicago. So I think I can't remember if she like made up a reason to come. Like there was a reason for her to come to Michigan. She usually visits like once a month, but I think she wasn't planning to like go this early or something. But she had a reason. Like it was reason enough for her to come. But the main reason was to be there as a support for me. And thank God, because when I look back at that day, I don't know how I would have handled that day if it wasn't for her. Because I was talking to her about it and she remembered so much stuff that I didn't remember, that I think I just kind of like blocked out. Because all I could remember was the start of the conversation and that was it. I don't remember the middle. I don't remember the end. I just remember the beginning and that was it. And she reminded me about a lot of things that I think I just like blocked out of my head, or I don't know, we've been busy moving. I'm not sure. But anyway, so start this off. I'm at my aunt's house and me and Peggy are the only people who know what I'm about to talk to my dad about. Not her brother, not even her mom, because if you guys can remember, I begged her not to like, tell anybody. So it's just me and her, and we know the whole purpose of this meeting. So, of course we disguised it as like, Dad, come on over, like, let's have breakfast, at your sister's, whatever. So he comes over and, I don't remember like how this just started. I think I just was like, hey Dad, like I have something to talk to you about. And I started off the conversation like, I've had a hard time like trusting men or something like that. Like just like have a hard time with like being in a relationship because I'm always afraid of trusting the guy. And he's like, okay. Like, and I was like, well, I found somebody. And he's wonderful and he's respectful. He's educated. He's this. I mean, I'm just going on and on about all the things that my dad has always hoped for in a guy. Like, let me reiterate that. Ryan is everything that my dad has hoped for in a guy. He's just black. That's the only thing. And he's like, okay. Like, he's like, okay, so what's, like his facial expression is all like, okay, so where are you going with this? And I was like, yeah, he's this, he's that, he's respectful, he's educated, he's hardworking, he's all these things. And he's like, okay. And I was like, but he's black. And his facial expression, and again, I can kind of remember this, but my cousin had to kind of like remind me, like it was like he got hit by a train. And I don't know if you guys have ever had that like pit feeling in your stomach, like where someone you love dearly, you find out that they died or like got into a car accident or, something. And you're just like, you have no hope for your future or for their future. And just like everything is bleak from here on out. That's how my dad looked. And, you know, I just remember, if I can remember like what Peggy was saying, you know, like when she was talking about the whole, like reminding me of like what happened and stuff, like I think I just was, you know, starting to like, I'm still trying to like turn Ryan into a good, like telling him about all these qualities that Ryan has, and he's just still stuck on the fact that he's black. And, you know, my dad said the whole like, look what you've done to our family. You're putting shame on our name. You're putting shame in the family, and it's blah, 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 all of this stuff. And like, let me reiterate, again, our family is a divorced family, and my dad had to go through, and my mom, a lot of shame and people talking about them, people talking about our family name and all of this stuff. Like they went through all of that. And I want to believe and I want to say that at some point, like, yeah, of course my dad was mad that he was black, but I think my dad also, throughout this whole like journey of like telling them, which we'll get into in future episodes, I think at some point when this was probably after he met Ryan and realized that there is nothing he can find that's like bad about him. It's just the fact that he's black. Like he was worried about me in that way because, you know, all the mud I'm going to have to pull myself through with our community and all of this stuff and all the judgment and all that. And, you know, it just, yeah, but that's in the future. We're talking about when it was really bad. So when it was really bad, it was very hard to like, when my dad's angry, it's very hard to talk to him. I maybe have that, I mean, would you say I have that same quality?
Yeah. You and your mom, though, are the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so it's very hard to talk to him. You know, like when his mind is made up. And I think, I don't know, I'm trying to remember what Peggy was like reminding me of, but he walked out. And my aunt, by the way, so again, it was just me and Peggy who knew. So like my aunt was like in shock. My cousin, Peggy's brother, like same thing. Just like, he didn't say a word. He just was like, just sitting there. And my cousin, you know, Peggy's brother is not like, at the time, I think he was like 35 or something. So he's not, I don't remember how old he was, but like, or 34, something like that. He's not like a young person, or not a young person. He's not like a kid, you know, like he's not like a teenager or anything like that. So, he's an adult. And yeah, it's just like my aunt is very open-minded, loves people unconditionally, loves me unconditionally, and I know would never have a hard time with me dating a black person. But when she saw her brother's expression, she did flat out tell me, like, I'm worried about my brother. Like, I think it was very hard for her to like be happy for me at that time, because that day was just like very, very hard when I first told him. Because she loves her brother dearly and all that stuff, and it was hard for her to be happy for me, but like and be on my side, if you want to say, but like watch her brother just like witness a train wreck or something like that, you know. So looking back at that now, like at that time I didn't want to understand her, because I was like, no, you should be on my side. He's being mad for no reason, blah, 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 blah. And like, you know, some people may still think like that or feel like that. But if you understand like Chaldean culture, which Ryan will get into, like there's so many different layers of what you have to understand about Chaldean culture and why we react the way that we react before you can just like say they're racist. Like, don't get me wrong, there's Chaldeans who are straight up racist, but there's like some Chaldeans who have like really, really like a lot of pride and my dad being one of them, like a lot of pride in being Chaldean and like wanting to preserve the Chaldean culture, which again, Ryan will get into when he talks about meeting my dad for the first time. I think that's all I have for that part. I really can't remember anything else.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is, I don't know the time in between you telling him and in between me meeting him.
I don't know either. It's probably a month, less than a month. I don't know,
something like that. But
something like that.
So her dad asked Peggy for my number, and I think Peggy gave it to him. And then at this part, I don't really remember. I don't remember setting up the dinner. Like it's so hazy because I think I was just so nervous at that time.
Yeah, we blocked a lot of stuff out in our heads.
I never really, it's not blocked it out. I just think the last time I met a girl's dad was in high school. So this was what, 5 years ago now?
Oh, yeah.
So I was what, 22? The last time I had to meet a girl's dad was 6 years prior to that, because I was a sophomore in high school. So this is someone I'm planning to marry and be with forever. So this is my potentially my father-in-law I'm meeting for the first time. So yeah, I just don't remember the build up, but I remember the dinner exactly, how every conversation, every word we said. So
wait, let me reiterate. I did not know about this, by the way.
Yeah. So
I was at work and my cousin Peggy texted me. It must have been like 9 o'clock in the morning. Texted me while I was at work and said, don't freak out, but your dad is meeting Ryan today after, like at this time, blah, 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 all of this stuff. And I was like, wait, what? Because Ryan didn't tell me about this either. So, I wasn't mad or anything like that, but I had to like school Ryan, like teach Ryan how to like show respect and look like a man in front of my dad. And the number one thing was obviously, like, I didn't have to teach Ryan respect, like how to treat my dad, obviously, but as far as like who pays and how do you do it and all that stuff, because all my Middle Eastern people out there know, like, we fight for the bill. So I was literally telling Ryan, I was like, you have to get there first. I don't care what you got to do. I don't care if you got to get ready 5 hours prior. You make sure you get there first. And whoever is seating you down, you tell the waitress, here's my credit card. Like, no matter what, don't make him pay. So, Ryan took notes and did just that. And
the hardest part, like, I get there and I text Merna. I was like, what kind of car does your dad drive? And I think she didn't even...
I told him the wrong car.
Yeah, it was the wrong car. So I'm sitting there looking for a different car. But I know it's a GMC because she showed me to GMC.
My bad.
But I was like, but I'm sitting there. So, of course, I arrive and then I get out the car. And then he was already there in the parking lot sitting in his car. So, the whole getting there early to give the waitress the check thing out the window right after the bat. So everything's failing immediately. So we both get there and we're meeting at a Sahara in Oak Park, I think, right?
Yep.
And I think if you are Middle Eastern in this part of that part of Michigan, you probably know of that Sahara right off of, what is it, Coolidge?
Yeah.
That way? Yeah.
Yeah.
At least if you're on like that Royal Oak side of town. But we go there and it was just so awkward, man. It was just like, because from my point of view, you know what he feels, right? So
how does he feel?
He doesn't, the perception of you, he doesn't like, right? Like, you already know the way he reacted because Merna told you. You already know what he's going to do, right? So this isn't really a get to know you better. This is a, hey, he's going to try to convince you this is not the right thing to do type of a thing. But you're still trying to impress him. Still trying to change his mind just from the introduction. But he already knows what he's going to say, and that's going to be pretty much it. So, of course, I try to open the door up for him. He doesn't want to go in first. So I had to go in first. And there's double doors. So I opened the first door. He didn't want to go in first. So I had to go in first. But the second time, I was like, go. I had to say it forcefully. I was like, go in. So then we go in, and that Sahara I think is more of like a takeout place or a party place because it's never really full. That Sahara. So we get seated, and of course I think he knew the waitress there. Um,
Yeah, he did.
so then we go sit down, and yeah, for sure they knew because they always say, "Oh, how you doing? You know, how's your family?" It's yeah, 'cause that's kind of how it went. And of course, I'm super nervous, and I had literally no appetite this entire time, and we ordered lemon rice soup,
You got
chicken.
ades, I think, and you got fattoush salad, and you didn't even eat it.
We got a salad. We got chicken cream chop, and I didn't eat any of I didn't eat anything until I got home. That's how nervous I was during this whole thing.
Yeah.
And this is at nighttime. I think I worked that day. I don't know which job I had at the time, but I was working, and I was.
Was it nighttime? I thought it was like around like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
It was dark outside.
Oh, it was.
It was like it's kind of like how it is now, how it gets dark early.
Oh, okay.
But it was around six,
Well,
7 o'clock.
that was June, so
I don't know.
I don't know. Whatever.
It was six, 7 o'clock, maybe
Those
8
little
o'clock.
details are hazy.
Yeah, but because at that time your dad was still working at the store, so it was pretty late. But not like
Oh
push
yeah.
black or like nighttime, but it
Yeah.
was a good evening. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, so you know, of course he starts talking, and then he's just like, yeah, I tried to look you up. I'm sure you went like on social media or had someone else do it. He was like, yeah, I tried to find something bad on you, and I couldn't. It was like nothing bad I could find. I'm like, well, of course, like I don't go on Facebook like that anymore. Up to this point, like, and I think beyond that point, I'm not a big Facebook person. Haven't been really in a long, long time. Um, Not a big Instagram person. If I am, I'm just taking random pics. If you look at my Instagram page right now, you'll probably see pictures like 6 months spread out. That's how much I go on there. I'm on Twitter every day, not posting but just reading. But Twitter is like my social media platform that I'm on. Anyway, but yeah. So it starts off as that he's like he and this is everybody's go-to thing is like, yeah, man, like I can see you work out, I can see you take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's what he said. didn't he?
Everybody says that about me, like when they first see me, and it's like, yeah, I can see you're fit. You talk, you take care of yourself. And then he just kind of starts going into kind of like why this is gonna be a bad idea for us to do this. And his biggest thing was just kind of illustrating why he feels the way he felt, and it was just all about the community of you know the Chaldeans that might not approve of this outside of the family. That to me in my mind it's like, who cares, but like Merna was saying, they're kind of like their name's already kind of tarnished because of their divorce. Then on top of that, their firstborn son marries outside of the race and outside of the culture.
Like we definitely had come a long way with like restoring our name and like all of that stuff, like
Yeah,
because you guys, it's life, okay? It's life.
and to me this is all a foreign concept because it's just like, bro, what? Like we're like it's like the way that this community was like at that time, 5-6 years ago now. The way he was talking to me, I was like, are y'all living in like the 1800s where it's just like your name carries the weight like it does.
Like Game of Thrones, like
Yeah, it's
the
just
stocks.
like, yeah, it's like, it was so weird hearing. I was like, this makes no sense to me. So if you're on this side of the table where I am, it's just like, and you just don't understand, why someone's complaining about how their perception of the family is. It's huge to them because, one, there's not a lot of Chaldeans left. Okay, so they're very prideful. Two, they want to keep their bloodline going by, repopulating pure people from their side of the world to come here and repopulate. And
And it's mostly not losing the culture.
yeah,
like
yeah, they don't want to lose what they are, because that's
because we're very ancient people. Like
Yeah.
our people like test back in long ago civilization. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So
we recognize that our culture is dying, our language is dying, all of that stuff. You know, like most of us speak Arabic, most of us, you know, like live in America now, like we've been driven out of Iraq, like, you know, so it's like we're very proud of keeping this,
yeah.
you know, in line and stuff. And I guess, you know, for our people who are not like in who are not in like some form of minority culture, or even a minority culture that's like dying, you know, like it's going to be kind of hard to understand. But I mean, I guess the best way to paint it is like, imagine something you love so much, right, that you are trying to preserve as much as you can. So like you'll wrap it up in bubble wrap. You'll, you know, put like bulletproof glass around it. You'll, you know, like do all of this stuff. But then, you know, someone comes in and robs it, or someone comes in and breaks it, and someone this and someone that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't mean to like put our culture into like a material possession type of analogy, but that's honestly the only way that I can think of, you know, like comparing it for those who are not like a minority or a dying minority.
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's like I think a lot of people can relate to Chaldeans because if you if you're coming from a country to where like your country is still there, right? And if you were to go back to Iraq, you would be able to go back to Iraq. You know, there's certain places where you could go, but the equivalent would be like, you know, if you are Hispanic and you want to go back to Mexico, you can go back to Mexico and still be within your culture. If you're from Europe, you can still do that. For me, for being African American, these are all foreign concepts because we know America, and our culture isn't as rigid or rich as someone that still has a country to go back to. If this makes sense for all the people out there who are listening, it's just like, you know, as African American, you know, I can't go back to my African heritage and speak, you know, African because I have no idea where we would come from. So it's that. So it's like this is all still such a heavy foreign concept of these people were one, they didn't come here willingly, you know. If it was up to them, they probably would have stayed in the Middle East. So
and there's still like a lot of places that have been destroyed. Like I can't tell you how many times my dad has shown me pictures of like churches he used to go to or schools he used to go to that are no longer there because of massacres or bombings or things like that.
And like this is kind of coming off as like I'm standing up for them, but this is kind of years later of how it's understanding why they are the way they are. So I'm not trying to defend what things they said or actions they took. I'm just saying this is how I'm perceiving why they are the way they are.
Like now he gets it.
Obviously, like, you know, what we went through was messed up, right?
Yeah.
No one has to go through what we went through.
No, there's a lot of PTSD from that.
Yeah, for sure. But just trying to illustrate for you. So, you know, he explains all this to me, right? He explains, you know, how Chaldeans, this is from his point of view, are, you know, the closest things to Jesus of coming from Jesus as there can be in the Middle East.
Yeah, because we speak the same language that Jesus spoke, Aramaic.
So that's where his mindset is. Like his people are the most pure people in the world.
Yeah.
And listen, he spent most of his adult life or most of his life up to that certain point, sort of kinda, in Iraq, you know, fighting for his country and all these things, trying to preserve his people. So of course he's gonna feel like this, right?
Right.
But that being aside, so we go into it, and he's explaining all this to me, and I'm just sitting there absorbing all this stuff, and you know, and then he gets down to it. He's like, if you guys continue this relationship, it's gonna hurt myself and her mom the most, because we're gonna be kind of outcast from our community is what he was trying to get across. He's like, we're gonna lose a lot of people. We're going to not have the same type of support that we've had over the past, you know, couple of decades that we've been here. And again, to me, sitting there, I'm like, who cares about people she doesn't even see? Like
Yeah.
it should be just, who's ever in the house with you, your family, that should be all that matters. But to them, it's, it's people who you've known from back in the day where you guys were in Iraq, or people who you traveled to get to this country with, who weren't necessarily first cousins or second cousins, but friends that
Yeah,
you've kind
like
of grown up with.
childhood friends, first cousins, second cousins that you know they're close to and stuff. And I think that was like the hardest, that was probably one of the things that was like very hard to, like, where we were trying to see eye to eye with my dad and my mom and all of that stuff, because again, I'm Ryan's like kind of one opposite end of the spectrum, and then my dad and my mom are on the other opposite. So like my dad and my mom are like, but what about these people? And Ryan's like, who cares about these people, because Myrna doesn't see them. And I'm kind of like in the middle of like, I don't care about these people, because if they're for me, they're for me. If they're not, they're not. But at the same time, I'm like, well, shoot, these people are my dad's first cousins, his best friends, all of that stuff. And it's like, I don't want to say they put that guilt on me, but they put that guilt on
Oh
me.
yeah, 100%.
You know,
They
like,
put the guilt on me. He put the guilt on me too. And then we're sitting there, because he's trying to explain, and I'm just sitting there, kind of like, just being not like ignorant, just not understanding like why this is so important to him.
I think at that point, you weren't willing to understand because it was just so out of this world
It
for you.
wasn't like
Would you
I was
agree,
trying
or-
to understand. It was just like I just couldn't, because it was just such a foreign concept of your name carrying this much weight in a part of Michigan that would bar you from going to certain events or something crazy like that, or going to weddings or something like that. So um he gets done explaining it, and it got kind of awkward from there too, because I wasn't eating and he was eating. I don't know how, but I wasn't eating. Like the food was like cold, because we're there for a good hour and a half maybe, and I could barely eat, and he was, that hour was just him trying to convince me not to do this because of the kind of disruption that they would feel in their lives when it comes to their friends and their family, and what they're gonna say when in response to, hey, has Merna found anybody? Has Merna with anybody? What they're gonna face as a mom and dad, what they're gonna face as a backlash. And I'm just sitting there saying, like, why can't I be a part of the community, but as like a, as
he there was a question that you asked him that kind of stumped him, because when he was talking about, which reiterated that, like when he was talking about, like, yes, we're trying to preserve our culture, we're trying to preserve our race, all of that stuff, like, he Ryan like asked the question, well, why aren't you guys open for people who want to be a part of your culture,
I
or
think,
something along
yeah,
those lines,
it wasn't like pertaining to me only. It was like a broad
like a
spectrum,
collective, like,
yeah. Just and he was just like, I don't know. It's just the way things are, and I think that's at those point. That's at the point where you kind of know what this community is, and it's kind of not right, but it just is the way it is, and that's kind of what his response was. And I was just sitting there. I was just like, and that's kind of what the conversation was, just and we're getting to the end of it, and I think we both kind of got frustrated, because we're both kind of talking to someone who doesn't quite understand, and I think he understood more of what was going to happen, but it was just more of like we both kind of got to a point of not having much else to say, and it kind of ended bad, honestly, because I felt like he got what he needed to say off of his chest. He didn't say anything bad towards me, like, don't come near my daughter, don't do this. He didn't say anything like that. I think it was more of a, this is where I'm coming from, this is how I feel, this is what's gonna happen. In his mind, this is what's gonna happen if you guys continue down this road. And I think I don't remember what he said, but at that point, he was just like, it's gonna be hard for Marina's mom and me to support this moving forward. And and I said, I don't know what to tell you. I think I said, I said, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's gonna happen. And so he kind of got up and left at that point. And I sat there for a hot 30 seconds, and I just stood up, and I was like, I just walked out. And on the way back home, because it's about a 15-minute drive. I don't know. I talked to you. I talked to Peggy.
You might have talked to Peggy, but there's a detail that we didn't mention to you guys.
So a huge detail, because I told my mom where I was going, right? Because my mom knew I was going to go meet him, and my mom, being the overprotective mother that she is, followed me up to Sahara to make sure like nothing happened to me, like I didn't go missing. And
like she was in the parking lot,
like in the parking lot,
parked.
And I think she had a friend of hers go in to make sure nothing happened as well. And I didn't. I was so tunnel visioned or whatever. I didn't really care to like look around and like see who was there. But
you didn't realize that there was,
one of her friends was like in the restaurant, kind of watching us the whole time. And they said that I kind of walked out with my head up and just walked out like I was normal, like nothing was like happened. And that's how I felt. I didn't feel discouraged. I didn't feel like I was letting anything down, or that didn't go the way it kind of went, the way I imagined it, especially how it ended. Just getting frustrated, not really getting really anywhere too much. The fact that I was able to meet them or meet him, get that first impression out, give him no reason to not like me or anything like that, was a big thing too. So
I think that speaks to to bring back his mom, like being overprotective and stuff. I mentioned in the past, like in past episodes, how my parents were so tunnel vision with their feelings that they didn't take into consideration like the other side, like what is the other side thinking? Like what is his mom just feeling about her son, this is her baby, essentially, like he's the oldest of him and his sister, but like, her kids are her everything. And she having this like how would she feel? How would anybody feel if someone didn't accept your children for the color of their skin and whatever? Because up to this point, this is the first time that my dad's meeting him, but he already had this picture, this idea of him, and before he even saw a picture of him or saw him in person. And it's just like, I don't think my family ever like realized that, because again, they were more thinking about like themselves, their feelings, how are they going to deal with this? Because again, that's that's a struggle in and of itself. But I wish that they kind of like saw the other side too. And at one point I did mention to them, I can't remember when, but I did mention to them, I was like, how do you think his mom feels? Like that you guys don't accept her son because of him being black and all of this stuff. Like, have you ever taken into consideration like how messed up that is? Like, but they, again, at that time they were so like just worried about the community and like how are they going to face the community and all of this stuff. And I think at that point I was just like, I'll freaking face the community. Like, you're worried about how this person's going to say this and that. I guarantee you this person is not going to say what they want to say in front of my face. And let me tell you, they didn't. I had looks. I had people ignore me. I've had, people like, just not give me like the time of day. But that was it. Like, they never said to my face, I can't think, and maybe I'm forgetting someone or whatever, but like not one person said to my face how they really felt. They either said it to my parents or, you know, said it to like other family members or whatever, like the only people that was like actually like truthful were the people that knew about the situation, like my mom's best friend and her husband and stuff like that. Well, no, mostly my mom's best friend would tell me how she feels about it and all that stuff. But as far as like the community that my dad was talking about, his family and things like that, like I didn't hear it from any, like when I would face them like face to face, if it was like in weddings and stuff, like I'm talking about like months later, if like I was at a wedding and then the truth broke out, or like, or maybe this was like after our engagement or something, nobody said not one thing to my face. And I feel like that no, there was one person, actually, now that I think about it. There was one person on my dad's side, but that's it. Just one person who like, and I was so happy she said something. I was like, yeah, like talk about it with me so I can tell you like he's great, he's this, he's that, like ask me any questions you have. Like that's kind of where I was ready to fight, you know, like I was ready to like defend him. I was ready to just go all out, because I was trying to show my family like I'm not afraid, so don't be afraid. And if you're afraid, I'll step in the ring. You know, like we'll tag team, you know, like if you can't fight, like I'll step in the ring. I'll like talk to your cousins. I'll tell them this. I'll, you know, do that. I'll do that. Like I was willing to do that. Even if I haven't seen them in years, even if I have to speak the conversation fully in Arabic, like I didn't care. I didn't care because it was so like hurtful to me that people are going to look at this guy. And I'm sure, you know, for the people who don't know Ryan, or you know, just see pictures of us and we, oh my god, they look so cute, whatever, like we appreciate that, you know, like that's so sweet that you guys think like that you guys think we're a beautiful couple and all of that stuff. Because, you know, for the longest time, like I've had people who literally tell me like, you guys are like, you know, like he's too dark, or you know, you're too light, or this or that or whatever. That's why we call, you know, this the Gamer and Divis podcast, you know. But like for most of you, you don't know what his personality is like, and I hope that you can kind of like see his personality, or like hear his personality through these podcast episodes, because like this is the person that I was trying to bring into our community. I'm not trying to bring like the stereotypical thug or any other stereotypes that black people have that Chaldeans think, you know. And that's exactly what these people were thinking before even knowing him or meeting him. And it was driving me insane. It was making me so freaking livid, because it's like, I would understand if you met the guy with an open mind, just like, okay, let's hear him out. Let's see what he's like. Because again, in a previous podcast, I think a previous episode, I mentioned like it would be different if they met him with an open mind and was like, yeah, Merna, he seems like he could be disrespectful and this is why. Like he said this, or like I can see he can be controlling with the way that he was talking about this. You know what I mean? Like that would have been like constructive things that I would have taken into consideration, because I'm willing to put my life on the line for this guy. I'm willing to like take a bullet for him, or a emotional bullet, if you will, because I was gonna be like not ostracized, but like you know, just like exiled from my freaking family and all of this stuff. So if anything, I wanted people to like meet him and tell me like, am I not seeing something? Like I'm willing to spend the rest of my life with this guy and fight for him till I die. Like, is there anything that I need to know? But it was always, they hear he's black. They don't even know what he looks like. And I have to say, Ryan is like one of the, like, Ryan is to me, is the most beautiful black man I have seen in real life. Okay. As far as like celebrities, there's definitely celebrities that I think that are like very good looking or whatever. But as far as in real life, like Ryan's a good freaking looking dude. Okay. So like for them to not even see him and just like have this like stereotypical idea of like what black people look like, or how they act, or what they do, or all of this like mannerisms that they have. It's like, it was just so ignorant, and it fueled my fire, like my blood inside. Like my blood, I can't tell you guys, those 2 years before we got married, like I think my blood was boiling for a full 2 years of us trying to fight for our relationship. Like, it was constantly on defense mode. I mean, like, I can recall a time where I think, like, me, Peggy, and Tim were talking about something, and they were talking about, like, the subject and their perspective, and I was like, well, no, it's like this and it's like that, and it had nothing to do with black people, but it just, like, everything. I had to be, like, defensive on everything because I constantly felt like I had to explain myself, or I constantly felt like I had to defend something, and it just, yeah. But that's
Yeah, I
my
mean,
rant.
this goes back to one of the very first things we said, and when we started this was you got to know what the red flags are, and and even if you kind of are ignorant to those like kind of to those red flags, your family members or those people that you trust the most with this information, or people that you trust the most with when it comes to you being like let's say Peggy or your brother kind of noticed that was off or didn't know something or kind of felt a certain way, having them people that you trust and you kind of relied on to give you that like needed feedback can kind of reiterate and say, hey, this person is like this. Do you kind of feel that way too? And you trusting that person could say, yeah, I kind of noticed that as well.
Yeah,
so,
like, I sorry to cut you off, but, like, I only had, like, Peggy and my brother.
Yeah.
Like, as far as family and my friends,
I'm not saying the quantity is bad. I'm just saying that, like, it helps to have people meet this person that you trust that are not
right, not the quantity. I mean, like, we're talking about, like, my parents.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
parents. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm trying to say, like, you gotta have people that's in your culture meet this person, right? Who are, I guess, this in the same mind as you, right? Open-minded, like the same things that you do, aren't like closet racist or like anything like that. You gotta have people meet them to kind of reiterate, okay, is this person who I think he is? Because we've heard stories of people getting married and then completely changing who they are.
Afterwards,
and then you're stuck
like,
because you're married.
They get in, like, they don't realize that the person's abusive or controlling or whatever.
But I think that's what happens where you overlook, because I'm sure there are instances where that controlling person was controlling your relationship and you overlooked it.
Yeah, I mean, I can get into, like,
yeah, we can go into that, but I'm just saying, like you have to listen to feedback because there's gonna be something that they say that you've noticed or you kind of thought of or saw that you're like, yeah, that's one of the things I worry about. So it's things like that you have to really take to heart when if Peggy says, I think Ryan might be trouble when it comes to spending money, or I think he might be too controlling, I think he might be misogynistic or things like that, and it's just like, okay, like, as the person who loves this person, do you kind of feel the same way too, or are they just talking out of their
right? Because, like, believe me, guys, like, I think that's what a lot of, like, my community, like, forgets is, like, for the people who, like, didn't understand why I was dating a black guy, like, or why I would even do this, like, they just think that I'm just doing it to just, like, rebel, or, like, oh, her parents are divorced, like, of course she dates a black guy because, her parents are divorced, her parents didn't raise her right, and it's like, my parents were always there, like, they were always there. My dad was very present, my mom was very present, like, I it's not like I was raised by myself, like, I raised myself or whatever, but the point that I'm trying to make is, like, I did not choose this. I definitely could have walked away. I'll admit that, but, like, he gave me no reason to walk away.
Yeah, there were points. There were points where I'm sure Merna was like, "This is too much. I can't deal with this."
We'll get into that in the future, but, like, what I was trying to say is, like, I think my community just, like, forgets that I was at some point looking for any reason to walk away, because which is why I'm, like, reiterating that he it would have been nice to have like my mom or dad like meet him with an open mind. So if there was something like we're talking about, if there was something that I wasn't seeing, I'd be like, oh wow, I didn't recognize that. Let me not go through this. You know, like I think people forget like you know, that if I didn't choose to love this person, you know, and I do remember my dad like faintly thinking that that was the case. Like it's like I had this like choice, you know, to like fall in love with this guy, and I chose him. And it's like, no, you know, we all know that you can't choose who you love. But I know people who have chosen to walk away from the ones that they love because of the color of their skin, and they knew that it wasn't going to work out within their culture or within their race. So it's just like, I think I just want to, you know, mention that like I was hoping someone could tell me, like, so I wouldn't have to go through with this, because this was just the beginning. Like, this was literally just the beginning. The next 2 years, it was just constant ups and downs, and we'll get into that in part 3.
Is that really part 3?
There is a part 3, yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah.
But hold on, what's next here? But yeah, so because we know we still got to get into me meeting Merna's mom for the first time, which is a fun story.
Yeah,
sort of, kind of, not really.
Yeah. But
us
yeah.
getting engaged and everything that kind of led up to, okay, you met parents, you know, how do they feel? How do they think about you?
Yeah, there's still more about like my dad and my mom like in the next like year or 2 after this, before we get engaged, and then we can talk about our engagement.
'Cause this is 2018, right?
This is still 2017.
This is 2017.
Yep.
Jeez.
It's been a long time.
Goodness
but
gracious.
Yeah, again, as a reminder, you guys, my family is not like this anymore. They love Ryan. They care about him deeply. They see how much, you know, he makes me happy, and I make him his family adores me and loves me, and I would die for them. You know, so it's 100% different now. You know, so just if you guys like, you know, are like, oh my gosh, your mom and dad are like this, and but don't think like that, because they're 100%, you know, they're not like that anymore. So
yeah. The biggest thing is, I think, once you get to this hardest part, if you can get here, is meeting mom and dad, meeting mom, meeting dad, whichever way you do it. If you can get here, usually the hard part is like you're at the peak almost, I would say. And then it's just, yeah, I mean, on the side of meeting, you know, that
yeah, I guess for
that
you,
culture.
Yeah, for you, it's definitely,
it's okay. We've gotten to this height, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't get here easily. So, and then going back down is obviously way faster, but a lot of stuff is coming at you. And then, you know, stuff like, okay, you met parents, this is what you want, this is what you planned for. What's next? Like where do we go from here? Like where is this going? So yeah, that's stuff that we'll get into, I guess, next time.
Yes. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah. I swear, it's crazy. I'm like, thank you for whoever is like telling people about our podcast, because I have gotten a lot of Chaldean followers like just today, and it's kind of insane.
Yeah, I mean,
and you know, I
guess it just shows the amount of people out there who are in your boat.
Yeah, I mean, like, I really, you know, when I say like a lot of Chaldean followers, I think I can count like maybe 15 or 20 followers, and like, you know, within like 5 hours, which is kind of insane. I don't know if I'm on like the suggestive pages and like Instagram or something like that, but or if you guys are like really sharing, and if that's the case, like, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And again, always, I just want to reiterate, this is our experience. Yeah. You know, like, we are just
a blueprint.
No, it's not a blueprint.
No
way. We're talking about, I mean, you can use it as a blueprint, but you know, obviously, like, your experience is going to be different if you are going to go this route. We're just trying to shed some hope, or share some hope for those who are in this you know, situation, and just to remember, like, you know, it's just our story. this is our perception of the story, and how we remember it. And you know, it's not to shame my parents or shame shame the Chaldean culture or the black culture or whatever. You know, like it's just, we're just here to tell our story, and hopefully, give some hope to, you know, people out there who are dating outside of the culture. You know, whether you're Chaldean or not, or whether you're black or not.
Yeah, I mean, because we're not trying to sit up here and say, "Oh, hey, it gets easier," because your situation could be way different.
Right.
It could get harder each day. You could be like, "This isn't worth it." But
yeah,
at the end of the day, if you're listening, we're just trying to, like Merna said, give you guys hope, give you guys a perspective that's kind of unique, and hopefully, this these episodes kind of help people kind of get through those really, really tough times, because everybody who's listening probably has gone through that, you know, has gone through. Even if you're marrying within the culture, you still got, is this person's family good? Is this person's family
right.
bad? You know, what village are they from back home? You know, all this stuff. So regardless, you know, if we are getting you through those tough times, you know, you could be doing 1,000 other things for the past hour, but you decided to listen to us, so we're grateful for that.
Very grateful, yeah.
You know, you could be doing anything else in the world
literally,
except for listening to two random people
and like keeping your YouTube tab open.
Yeah, you could be doing whatever you want. So, thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.